So I've been slacking off for a few days and skipped the whole video stuff for a while. I had mentioned, I think in the last video I did, that I had thought about skipping it a couple days and didn't. And then there were like a couple days that I wanted to go to bed early and didn't. And then I ended up getting really sick for a while. And like basically got handed my ass until I slowed down for a few days. So I did that and have not felt as bad about, taking time since then. And especially since it's holiday stuff, it didn't bother me too much to skip. But a little out of practice, so I guess I need to get back into it. I went to the library earlier. I had some movies that were due back, so I took those back, and I had the dogs in the car, and I had just a bunch of stuff to do. So I went and dropped off the movies at the library, and then went to my brother's house to drop something off, then went to Walmart, and then went to the bank, and then decided to go back to the library. Could have gone to the one that was closer to the Walmart that I was at, but decided to just come back to the one that's closer to my house. They're both the same, same county, so you can check stuff out at one, return it to the other, and all that fun stuff. So I just decided to go to the one closer to home this time. And of course I had the dogs in the car again, so they were fine. He likes to bark at people that walk by now, so that's not, he's getting carried away with his communication. He's always had the tendency to want to bark of a morning. It's like there's so much talking he has to do before he can be content to go about his day. And he's getting a little more chaotic with it. And I think part of it is because we've been walking so consistently, and he's afraid he's going to get left behind, because there has been a couple times where he has not gotten to go along. Last year I want to say he tore his cruciate ligament or something like that, and so he wasn't supposed to go for the walks and all that stuff. He did not like that at all. So I think part of the barking now is to make up for lost time and to express that he did not appreciate that back then and will not appreciate it now. But yeah, now we can just be sitting. Driving down the road and there's a construction guy like 10 feet from the car. He freaks out. It's like, that's not helpful. I got to figure out how to make that not happen, right? Because that's starting to get on my nerves, and Gidget and her demanding of my time. Like when I'm driving, she is getting a lot more adamant about pawing at my arm and trying to get my attention, and she kind of went after Taz in the backseat earlier. They do the bitey face thing a little bit, but it wasn't an actual fight, just you're pissing me off, get out of my way kind of a thing. They do that a lot more recently. Gotta knock that down too. I'm not sure why my kids are going crazy unless they sense that I am making shifts to try to change our living situation, and they are probably a little concerned since the last time, well, not the last time they got to go, but the time before that they did not get to go, and they were not happy to be left behind on that. And I was not happy to leave them behind on that either. But the damage is already done, and they already don't trust that, I can go somewhere and come back and it'd be okay. They have to be in my armpit. Yeah. That was a big irrelevant tangent. I don't... It's been a few days. So when I went to the library, then I had the dogs in the car. I checked Terrifier 3 back out. The bonus features. I was dying for the eulogy log thing, and it was good times. But then I wasn't done with that movie completely, so I decided to check it back out. And then while I was looking around, since I turned a bunch of other ones back in, it was like, I should probably go ahead and get the second one. For whatever reason, I did not get the first one as well. And so I got back home and was like, why didn't I get the first one? If I'm going to have them all, I might as well just watch them. Or if I'm going to have 2 and 3, I might as well just have all 3 of them and, like, make a week of it, right? So I went back and I got Terrifier. But I got some books this time. And this just made me laugh having the two together. Life Lessons from Bob Ross. There's a bunch of others. It's like Your Brain on Art, Lives of the Stoics. I've gotten that one before and didn't get all the way through it. I think I talked about that back in the spring sometime. The Witch's Almanac, a book of seances, an intro to drawing. I don't know, but the weird stash just kind of made me happy. The librarians didn't say anything about me being back, but one of them kind of looked at me like, weren't you just here? Because it was literally like, maybe a half an hour later that I went back. So yeah, that's me. That's me being really awesome today. So, yeah, but that's, I pulled some cards the other day, and what deck was that from? I don't remember what deck that was from. Work Your Light, Rebecca Campbell. There's one that was talking about play and doing things more for your enjoyment, right? And needing to spend some time doing that. Then there was one, I forget what it was called, but it was talking about taking time to relax and I don't remember all of that one. But the next one was Call in Your Soul Tribe, and it talked about how if you pull this card, then your soul family is closer than they've ever been, and you need to make sure you are not dimming your light, so they will be able to find you. It's like, okay, well, that's a big thing. I do have that tendency to, back down and I guess try not to be as much me at times. But then I thought that one was kind of funny because that card spoke directly to, or the guidebook for it spoke directly to the importance of not dimming your light if you're trying to find or to call in your soul family, because, well, they have to be able to find you, right? And made me go back to my orange dots that I talked about on my my wall way back when. I think that was like October, sometime after I Jackson Pollocked my walls. And that, by the way, is still like my favorite thing that I've ever done. And I'm going to have more spaces where my art is chaotic on the walls going forward, because I love it. And that is definitely my happy space. And just sitting there and looking at the chaos on the walls kind of just makes me think of like other things. It's raining, so distracted by the raindrops on my face. Anyway, or on the windshield reflection, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, not dimming the light. And then I pulled another card that was specifically don't dim your light. It's like, okay. But it was funny because a lot of the stuff that I was thinking about was stuff that it's like, man, this stuff's gonna piss off a lot of people. Like I've been really struggling with the whole Christmas thing this year, and playing Connect the Dots with some random bits of information I've gotten over the years and talked about very much on here, just not together. But I've been piecing it together, and the way I pieced it together the other day made me laugh really hard. So a big part of it, okay, so obviously I have kind of a struggle with Christianity, as since that was my upbringing, and well, parts of it, people very adamant about certain belief systems, and we went to church a lot, and then we stopped going to church because my great-grandpa died and a bunch of other shitty things happened, and so I thought God hated me, and therefore I decided that I hated God for a time. And so because I started having some tantrums before it was time to go to church, we stopped going to church. Okay, not because of that, because of my tantrums, no. The bigger part of it was at that exact same time frame, the church that we were going to, the pastor was like stupid obsessed over how people were dressing to come to church, and he was I guess bitching about the stuff people were choosing to wear. Mind you, it's like 1991 or whatever, and all things gone to hell for me. And then mom decides that she got tired of that pastor and the way he was fixating on certain stupid shit, and so she decided we were going to go to a different one. So we tried going to a different church, but then the uncertainty of not knowing where we were going each weekend became an ordeal too, and that was kind of when I started having my meltdowns, and we eventually stopped going until after my suicide attempt. And then I jumped back into it hoping that would fix everything, but it didn't. So yeah, there was of course drama with that. But yeah, like, it took me some time to realize it wasn't going to fix everything, and I continuously contended with this ideation and tried to pray to make it go away over and over again, and it never did. And then, it's like, at times it seemed like it made it worse, so, like, that didn't make sense. But I tried to do the good Christian girl thing and do what everybody was telling me, and it's like a whole bunch of stuff that turned out to be bullshit and didn't fix anything. So, yeah. Anyway. So, I went to seminary later, like way later, obviously, because that was high school, or like middle school, high school. I don't remember if it was 8th grade or my freshman year, but it was like in that time frame. So, might have actually been over the summer, kind of in between. But anyway, I was kind of obsessive about going to church and doing all the church things and trying to be good and trying to do what everybody was telling me I had to do to be acceptable by God and all this crap. And then eventually, and living the Bible study life, whatever I could fit in, however much church, and, do that stuff. Yeah. Then, when I went to seminary, which was the same year I got my TBI, 2013 is when I started, in January. And one of the first classes I took was this history of Christianity kind of a thing. And I don't remember exactly when it was. But we were talking about the Crusades, and the fact that they happened, and that was a thing of the past, right? So, that was a whole ordeal when I went to the Sunday night thing at my family, or at my grandma's house, way back when, and was trying to process this stuff that I was learning. And when I started spouting off about how, Christianity it's got a history too, basically. A very ugly history, in fact, because there's that whole Crusades thing, and if you didn't want to buy into the Jesus viewpoint, then, they just off you, right? So, okay, like, that wasn't exactly the lesson, but that was really the part that stuck with me, is that idea. And it's like, okay, so that always bothered me. And then there was another point where we had to have this specific translation of, I don't remember. I want to say it was the NASB version, but it was like the specific one that we had to have for this course and for the majority of our seminary studies, basically as a reference point, right? And one of the biggest things that stood out, I don't even remember what the class was. I remember who taught it. I remember sitting in this room, what the room looked like and everything, and, reading through some passages that the teacher was talking about. And in the footnotes for the story of what the woman at the well or whatever, one that I've heard to beat people over the head many, many times. And then I read in the footnotes of this book this book that wasn't even in the original text, and it was added much later. And it's like, what would be the purpose of adding something like that that has been repeatedly used to beat people over the head with the idea of how awful people are, right? And, especially women people. And so, yeah, that was a whole... but, it was... I loved my seminary experience. I did, because there was a lot of starting the unraveling process that, went into it. And it was funny because I avoided seminary... Okay, so I went to undergrad at Ball State, got my Bachelor's of Science in Religious Studies and Psychology. And I went the Religious Studies route because that was something I was really interested in at the time and trying to make sense of in my life and all this stuff. And it seemed like it would make sense to... Okay. The purpose, admittedly, was partly to gather more information about what else is out there, basically to prove that Christianity's right? So that's not exactly what ended up happening. So I've been collecting all of this information over the years, and basically going into Christmas, I got really frustrated because I've kind of had this little bit of a drive to return to the old ways. And it's funny because I got one of the Conjuring movies from the library the other day, and I watched it, and it was one of the nun movies. And one of the stories they were telling in the movie, of course, it has that big, long line of Christianity being an influencing point of it, right? Everything these days has that Christianity thing that, is an underlying idea or belief that is there being a thorn in the side of basically everybody. And, one of the stories they were telling in that movie was talking about this patron saint, Lucy or whatever. I don't know if she's even a real person or whatever. I'm sure she probably is. But just the story they were telling about her, they were talking about how the pagans tried to burn her in the flames, and she wouldn't burn, so they gouged out her eyes, and she became the patron saint of the blind. It's like, just when they started telling the story, it's like, oh, fuck, more of this shit. I really struggle with all those stories now. Anything, because you have stuff that has nothing to do with Christianity at all, and yet it's going to bring you back to this point of hell is a place where you go when you die, because that's something that's been, the the thing that's the club to beat you into submission and to bring you around and everything. And like I've said, my grandfather, watching the time I had with him, my whole experience of this man showed me that hell's not somewhere you go when you die. Hell is something you have to go through before you can live. And most people just don't live. That goes back to that whole idea of let the dead bury the dead, right? Since I walk at the cemetery a lot, that's come to mind a few times. And then it's like, what does that kind of mean? And then I was thinking, what that means is like for people like my mom who are so obsessive about focusing on all the bad, negative things and calling more of it to themselves, basically. Or going above and beyond and making sure to bring everything down when somebody... Today I went with my mom and my grandma to an appointment. They wanted me to drive, so fine. And I dropped them at the door because it was raining, and then I just stayed in the car until they were ready for me to pick them up and all that fun stuff. And yeah, my mom said that she heard from one of her cousins that she hadn't heard from in years. This woman used to randomly show up at our house a bunch. And she always bothered me because she would just give the dogs a ridiculous amount of treats and just handing stuff out right and left. And I had this one dog, my Chancellor. That dog was amazing. And we had a dog door, and she had given him so much junk that he ended up shitting himself before he was able to get out the door. And he just looked so horrified. And it's like, damn it. But I think that was one of the last times she was around because I didn't say anything to her. I don't think. It's just really angry and go fume elsewhere because now I got to clean up this dog shit because he's had too much stuff that he shouldn't have had, because we don't need to just do the snacks all the time. And if you see my family, we do the snacks a lot, and I've talked on here a lot about, I started skating obsessively outside by myself and lost 50 pounds. And it wasn't just the skating. When I started, it was one of those things with the, I had this Dr. Pepper habit, and my aunt and my mom were all about going for their beverages, their Diet Cokes and all this stuff. So it was a bad habit. And I was kind of, stress eating and the stress drinking and all this stuff, not alcohol or anything, but Dr. Pepper, but that's bad enough, right? And I was so wound up and agitated all the time. And it's my diet was terrible. And when I was going through my divorce and then shortly after, because I was at the biggest size I've ever been in my life. And I had this one moment where I was thinking, I know I need to break this habit. It's not doing anything for me. But then it was also, when it's time, it's going to be able to happen a lot easier than I believe it could, and it's just going to, God, that's going to bother me now, all this damn raindrops. Oh, my car's not starting, that's cool. There we go. Okay. Okay. So, where was I? Oh, yeah, so I decided, it's all right, one of these days when it's time for this to happen and time to really step it up with the healing and all this stuff, it's going to just happen easily and become, it's going to be harder for me to not do it rather than, difficult to get into or whatever. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, just distracted by my face, sorry. So yeah. So then, I was a few months later, I was working at this factory that was 35 minutes from my house, and because of the factory, I was walking all over the place, and I had a terrible diet, so I was I drank a lot of Dr. Pepper, even more, because they had, I'm wanting to say that facility you could get free pop, because obviously we need that. So I was living on Dr. Pepper and fruit snacks for a while. It was terrible. And granted, I only worked at that place Monday and Friday, but it was like usually 12 hours. It wasn't supposed to be 12-hour shifts, but it usually ended up amounting to around 12 hours because of overtime and everything. And when, crappy diet, but walking everywhere, I got to a point where it's like my work pants started sagging a lot. It's like, I'm gonna have to do something about this, and it just kind of snuck up on me that way. Then I started skating all the time, and then it's like, before I know it, I've lost 50 pounds, and oh wait, when did that happen? The first time I realized there was any weight loss, the first time I was alerted to this weight loss, when I went to the doctor, he'd lost 12 pounds. I thought their scale was wrong because I wasn't doing anything actively to try to lose weight. And then when I kept going, it's like, oh, shit. Look, it just kind of snuck up on me. Hey. So that's kind of handy. But anyway, right, so that was the whole thing. I don't remember why I started that tangent. Oh my God. My tangents are all over the place. I remember getting to where I started that tangent, but I don't remember why I started that. Because that was having something to do, who's my father, with, see, and now I'm back into the Conjuring movie, and that theme, and it's like, where was it? Oh man, so frustrating. Anyway, I guess other tangent. What's that relevant for? So I was watching that movie the other day, right? And then it came with the stuff. It started in on how the pagans tried to set her on fire, and they were the awful ones. It's like, but then there's that whole fact that the Crusades happened and the Christians were the ones running around doing this shit to people, and the whole fact that okay, Christmas, okay, so it's been celebrated for the season of Yule for a long time, right? That it was a pagan festival that the thing I was looking at the other day was talking about, it's a celebration of the return of the light, and the days are getting longer, right? So the yeah. Anyway, there's so many layers to this, and I totally just nodded on myself. Sorry. Gross. Yeah. So I was thinking about, how basically, from what I've learned, we've spent a lot of time talking about how Christianity basically jumped in and was killing people to try to force them to convert to this new way of being, right? But okay, over the past year, it has occurred to me very strongly that there is nothing more antichrist than the church. And you can go with the stories of where, I've heard of pastors who dress up like a homeless dude to come in and see how they'd be received by the congregation, and it was garbage because the congregation's all sitting there, and judging him because they don't recognize him, and so that's the whole thing. And then it's but that's kind of exactly the whole thing, right? And then there's so many layers to this shit. And I get lost in my head with trying to unravel them. And I think that's part of the point of my channel, is the whole process of making it make sense again. But, like when things make sense and it's like, oh, that's a big thing. Yeah. So, but the whole, but of course, if you ever hear about anything, the Christians are going to tell you that you should expect to be treated like shit because Jesus was treated like shit first. I mean, obviously that's my wording, but yeah, so there's this whole thing, right? So, that's driving me nuts. Ooh, I don't think that helped me at all, but I don't know. No, need more light. Yeah, I don't know. It's what happens when it's like after or getting dark when I decide to start a video. Yeah, and it's raining, so yeah. I look like I have lace on my head. Anyway, so easily distracted. Shit. Okay. Right. So the Christians are very much into that whole victim mentality thing, right? And I see this a lot because, it's kind of my family and what I've been contending with a lot in the past year. Because, of course, if you call attention to the bad behavior, then of course you're going to be treating me that way because, whatever. It goes from them behaving badly to now you're the mean one that's abusing them in some kind of way because you said that, enough's enough and the shit needs to go, right? And I've talked a lot on here about if you call out the bad behavior or, bringing attention to it, that whole, like the cockroaches scattering when you shine a light on them or whatever. When you call attention to the fact that something sketchy is happening, they don't want to hear that, and then it's an attack about whoever's calling attention to it. And, I feel like I feel a whole lot of this in my whole life, right? Oh gosh. Because I was the scary one. They were, my brother talked about how, I told him that I was looking, when I married my ex, I was looking for him or my dad to say something, and they didn't. And so I went ahead and went through with it. Even though that voice in my head was saying, no, don't do it, I did it anyway. There was even an opportunity to walk away, and that voice was like, go! It's like, you don't like each other, let alone love each other, so why are you here? Go. And I didn't, because I needed somebody outside of myself to basically tell me that, this person was wrong for me, right? When the voice inside was very adamant about, this is not a good situation, don't do this. And then I did it anyway, and then, yeah. Damn raindrop. There we go, okay. So, yeah. So then I was thinking about the whole, Christmas was originally, it wasn't Christmas, it was Yule, right? And it was a pagan thing. And it was a big thing. And lots of people celebrated it. And then the Christians come along and, start killing people off and trying to make, trying to play the victim card then, because, well, that's probably in hindsight. But, they go around killing people off to get people, basically to coerce people into believing what they want to believe, right? Or what they want them to believe. And then, you put it in a book where nothing can be changed, except the same people that have said, don't change things, are the very ones changing things. It's like, that whole, the woman at the well, man. That was the biggest one. It's like I have personally felt attacked by that story many times. And then I find out from, the seminary course that wasn't even originally in there. It's like, oh, why might that have been added? Okay. So, yeah. I've been having some thoughts. Okay. God guide me. Come on. I don't know how to do this. This is just a straight shot. This isn't... Oh, okay. So I've really been struggling with this whole idea of Christmas. Especially this year, especially since I've set boundaries and started to call out the bad behavior that's happening around me all the time, and bringing attention to the fact that people are actually getting hurt by the shit that's getting spewed by this whole... Okay, you take one group that thinks they're flawless and their shit don't stink, and then suddenly they're out there, protesting at freaking funerals and telling people that their loved ones are gone to hell and all this shit. It's like a whole lot of bad behavior, and you know what? Bad behavior perpetuates more bad behavior, because the whole cockroach thing, and there's more and there's more until you finally shine a light on the things, and then it's like, oh fuck, what happened? Where'd all this shit come from, right? Okay, so another point. So I was thinking the other day. Okay, mind you, let's go make me be very clear. Let me be very clear on this. I have no problem with Jesus. I have a whole problem with religion, right? Because I think the religion itself is very much anti-Christ, because they clearly don't get the message that, and they claim it and don't practice it. And that's the problem. That's why it's a problem. But I think there is also a reason that Jesus hung out with the sinners over the church folk. I mean, granted, they were, there's the synagogue going bunch, but all the same, all they did was just create a slightly different spin on it. And it goes back to the whole idea of freaking Republicans and Democrats. It's you're just going back and forth and nobody's fixing anything, and it's just going... but we trying to find balance in that. You're not going to find it in this freaking political system. It's bullshit. And yeah. So it goes one way and then it goes back the other way. And, however much this side can push their weight around and get things done how they want them done, and then it swings back the other way and they start pushing that way and undoing the stuff that was done on the other side. Just stupid shit, right? So if you go from religion and then somebody comes along to try to talk to you about spirituality, and then you can turn his whole thing into, now he's a god figure, now you have to worship this person that is we don't have this actual experience of it. He didn't do this stuff in my lifetime, but I wanted to understand it, and, well, that brings about your own personal hell experience and trying to navigate through that, because this navigating from life traumas, that's very hellish, and, yeah. But, then you get the religious folks back in there, and okay, well, he came along and shook everything up, so now we got to take control back. So now let's make it a religion where we can say that we have to worship him, because he alone is this God figure, he is the Son of God, so we must do this thing, and then Holy Ghost the feminine and all that shit, blah, blah, blah. And then what? Oh, well, how do I get to that point? Okay, Christmas. This one, it's kind of been hitting me for a while. It's they tried to make this holiday about this man's birth, right? But, okay, if he was in fact born on Christmas, that would make him a Capricorn, which I love Capricorns, don't get me wrong. One of my favorite dogs and my brother, and some other important people in my lifetime are Capricorns. I love them very much. That is, Capricorn and Cancer are their sister signs, and then the fact that I'm a Cancer and my brother's Capricorn. I mean, there's a dynamic here that makes perfect sense as I'm living it and seeing it and reviewing it and all this stuff. So, Capricorn in tarot is represented by the devil. Because it's that hard work ethic, and, you know, it's basically attachments and duality, and, you know, it keeps you on that. So why would Jesus have been a Capricorn? That doesn't really make sense. Now, I know they are good people. I love them. You know, the ones that I have in my life. But yeah, that you know, and then like the stuff you hear like on, you know, history shows and just whatever, seminary history stuff. I think I've heard May or June is more likely, and it seems like June was the more preferable option for when he was actually born. It's like, okay, so, well, an air sign and a water sign, because Gemini and Cancer, that would make sense. I mean, at least for somebody that's going to do all this stuff for everybody else, right? You know, because, I mean, the Geminis I know, and of course my own personal experience of the whole Cancer thing, it's like, it's very easy to get just swept away in all of like the feelings and the everything else of others. Like, that's been the biggest part that I've struggled with, is, you know, basically taking on people's shit as my own and trying to heal it, but then realizing that you can't heal stuff for other people. That's not how this whole thing works. You have to do your own work to get the lessons and realize, you know, you have to learn everything you're not before you can really understand everything you are. You know, so it's like, I just get that whole dynamic of trying to give and fix everything for everybody else, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And especially because if people aren't doing the work themselves, they're not getting shit out of it. You know, like that freaking dude at the bar that wanted to buy me a drink way back when, before I went into the military. Or I enlisted already, but before I actually, 5:55 on the clock. And it's 50 degrees. Yeah. Changes, man. Big changes are coming. So yeah. So, guy at the bar. So the guy, that story, the guy at the, yeah, my friend and I went to see a movie, and afterwards she decided she wanted to go to this little pub for a birthday drink, you know, because I was getting ready to go away for my basic training and all that fun stuff. And so it was one of our last times we'd be hanging out together for a while, and so she wanted to do that. So while we're sitting there, I only wanted one. She only wanted one. She only got one. But this random guy who's sitting on the other side of the tap, so we can't really see him except for like the top of his head when I kind of look up a little bit, you know, it's like, and you get a hand, but that's it. I can't see a face or anything. And it's like, okay, why me? But yeah, the bartender comes over and brings another of my drinks. I was like, what's this? I didn't order this. What's this? And she said, it's from the guy at the end of the bar. It's like, oh, fuck. It's like, I didn't want another one. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Am I supposed to like go talk to him? I feel like I'm supposed to say thank you or something, but at the same time, I didn't really want it. So it's like, I don't really know what to do with this situation, right? So we end up, before we leave, we end up over there talking to him, and she says, oh, it's so nice that you got her a drink. It is her birthday. And 4. And He's like, oh, happy birthday. You know, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that was news, right? She didn't need to share that news, but she shared that news. So, dude's like, oh, happy birthday. How old are you? And it's like, how old was I? That one, I just turned 28. He's like, oh, I wouldn't have guessed more than 21. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So we're talking to this guy a little bit, way more, obviously, way more than was ever necessary. But, you know, this is one of those life lessons for me kind of a thing. So we're sitting there and we're talking about him, and, it's this one, but I don't think you can see it all the way because of my bracelets. You can't. Okay, so I had this tattoo on here, yeah. There's 2 plumeria flowers and Bible verse. Because my first tattoos were all Christian-y shit. That one, I still have that verse. Isaiah 46:4. Yeah. It says, even to your old... Wait, how's it? There it goes. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he who will sustain you. I've made you. I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. So that always felt really important. And I, that was like Hebrew Testament stuff. So it's like, I always felt really strongly connected to that one. It's like, I'm holding to that one. I don't regret that one. I'm just telling you what it says. The only one that was kind of sketchy, but it too has served a purpose, was I used to have the ichthus, the Jesus fish thing on the back of my neck with Jesus in the inside of it. Big block letters and all this fun stuff. It is now a lotus flower. Kind of a big ass dark lotus flower, because it took a lot to cover that up. But when I did that, it was like within the past 5 years, I posted a thing on Facebook and saying I got something that's more aligned to where I am now. And then, of course, one of those Christian-y people that I used to be friends with at this one particular organization in undergrad that, was kind of, had a lot of the, leaving bad taste in your mouth kind of a thing. I liked the people, but there were some stuff, some people in there included that I didn't sit right with me. But she comes along and I didn't have any problem with her specifically, but she's like, well, what do you mean? I never did get back to her. I thought about it and had planned on it at one point, and then at some point along the way, it's like, yeah, you don't have to explain yourself. So, that's more of me now thinking back into it. I don't remember why I didn't. I think just enough time went past that I just walked away from it. But anyway, guy at the bar. Okay, so guy at the bar. He sees my tattoo. He's new to the area. He is a 40-somethings-year-old. What's the job? Plastic surgeon. Yes, because obviously that's nothing sketchy about this, right? So new to the area, plastic surgeon. I don't remember his name or anything. If you ever want to get rid of those tattoos, you should come see me because I can help you out. It's like, dude, I paid to put it there. I'm pretty confident I want to keep it, at least at this point in time, because I didn't have it that long. My actually not the ex-husband, the one before him, the one I liked better. He actually bought it for me for my birthday. So, yay me, now I'm forever stuck with that. Stuck with that birthday gift from an ex. Whatever. There's no hard feelings there anymore. There was for a while, but I've come to terms with all that. Anyway. Oh yeah, he said that he would have guessed me at 21, right? Well, at some point in this conversation, he starts talking about this girl that had recently gone missing. That I think that she was riding her bike in Bloomington. College student, was about 21, and he just starts asking us questions about this girl. It's like, this don't sit right. And of course, I met that friend in undergrad, specifically when I was, going for that psychology degree, and one of my favorite classes was my forensic psych class. And the first week we were talking about it was my first week of summer school, and it was night classes. Okay, well, I mean, it was like my senior year, so it wasn't like my first ever whatever, but I was living off campus and walking over through this creepy ass neighborhood to the building. It's like, I gotta walk back home. And that first week we were talking about serial killers. It's like, oh man, I didn't think this through very well. I mean, of course, not that I had the freaking syllabus at that point in time, I mean, to plan, but yeah. But anyway, one of the things we talked about was how serial killers tend to be notorious for showing up at like community briefing type things where the police is involved and giving the people information about, what they know so far and all these things. It's like they're somewhat notorious for going into those situations just to find out if people are onto them, right? So this is all like coming together as this guy's talking about all this shit. It's like, And one of the things he says is something about, well, I'm Catholic, so I can do whatever I want through the week and pray for forgiveness on Sunday and I'm good to go. It's like, well, I mean, in my experience, that's the way most Christians live. So, I mean, especially the ones screeching it loudest and proudest. There's not a whole, it goes back to like that movie Saved with Mandy Moore chucking the Bible at the other girl. Yeah. I mean, filled with Christ love. Yep. That's I like that movie. Anyway, yeah. It's like, that's been my personal experience of it too. Is a whole lot of banging people over the head with it, and God, in movies, oh my God. That was something that was really frustrating too. Like, okay, oh my God. Okay, any movie, okay, think of the Christian movies. It's like, I mean, you already know where it's gonna go, but then it's like that big moment where it could go somewhere and it's just like smacking you over the head with the points, like, oh, and now you fucked it up. It's like, well, I kind of feel like that's kind of life in this whole Christmas thing, like going back to that theme. So, okay. So, I mean, the fact that Capricorn is represented by the devil in tarot, and yet we have this, okay, this whole he is the light thing, and the whole thing was running over the top of the fact that pagans were celebrating the return of the light and the lengthening of days and all this stuff, right? So then that takes me to that conversation my brother said that he had with his friend. And this is just, my brother, when we were having this conversation, I don't remember why he went back to it at that specific moment, but it's just like one of those things. It's just like a light bulb kind of a moment when he had, the friend that had the conversation with the Satanist or whatever, and he talked about black being a protective color, right? And the friend said, really, I would have thought that black was the color of the devil. And he said, no, the white is the color of the devil. And it's like, oh, well, that actually makes sense because, well, I mean, okay, let's think. I feel like that might actually be relevant now. So this morning, okay, my shirt's not white, first off, and it's dark in here, so I don't know if you can even see it. This morning, okay, my shirt, I don't know, yeah, I don't think you can see it. So I have this shirt on, and it is a Medusa shirt, and the top says, the female gaze, and underneath it says petrify the patriarchy, right? So it's a light pink shirt, but as I'm thinking about like the color white, okay, so if you're wearing white, it shows everything that if you get something on it, right? And one of the first things I did this morning I went to get ready and I put this shirt on, and I have this bottle of contact solution that was on my counter. And okay, I have to use like the little I forget what brand it is, but it's like the stuff with hydrogen peroxide in it. Excuse me while I stutter all over that one. Yeah, but it's got hydrogen peroxide. I can't say it any better the second time. And it's got the little thing, so it's like it's shooting bubbles, and it's supposed to like destroy the proteins on the contacts and all that stuff and make it better to put them in your eyes, right? And I can tell a difference if I use this stuff and wear them. I can get more time out of my contacts for one thing, and since I'm on my last set, I'm pushing that. So I try to stay on top of using that stuff because it does seem to help me not be miserable in contacts, right? But the reason this is important is that little container has a little hole in the top, and when it's all bubbling, it's frequently goes out the top. It doesn't matter if you go to the line, right under the line, right over the line, it's like out the top, and it's like, damn it. And usually I try to keep it like right on the sink so it goes down into the sink, but for whatever reason, there's been a few days where it got pushed to the back of the sink, and like it's got like the hydrogen peroxide stuff, it's got stuff on the bottom of the bottle, and like stuff from the soap thing. It's time to clean the bathroom. Not gonna lie. But the reason this is important is because I happened to pick the stupid bottle up today and for whatever reason leaned it on my belly, probably for this conversation right now actually. Leaned it on my belly very momentarily. But when I moved it, I had like this orange ring on my shirt, and it's like, son of a bitch. And it was like, I really feel like I want to show that to you, and I don't know that, I already tried, but, I don't know, it's right in there somewhere. I don't think you can really see it. Oh, well, you're gonna have to not see it today. Oops. We'll just go with that. And if I ever figure out how to like add pictures in, and hey, here's this thing that I was talking about, maybe I'll like add that in. I don't know. I'm not gonna randomly take a picture of my shirt, so probably won't. But yeah, that was kind of the thing. There's like, so it makes sense basically that white would be the color of the devil, if we want to go that route, because, it basically shows you what you want to see, or points out the things that are a problem, because, like, this orange spot on my shirt wasn't really cool, but, I wore a sweatshirt over it, so I didn't even bother changing it or anything. If it was, like, in the summer or something, and I wasn't wearing the sweatshirt, I probably would have changed, but it wasn't enough to make it that big of a deal. But yeah, it shows you what you want to see. You want to see, that somebody got sloppy and dumped their freaking tacos down their shirt or whatever, so you can call attention, hey, you're a slob or whatever. I feel like that's basically Christianity in a way, right? And talking about how terrifying the dark is. Oh my God. But that whole thing, like with my dogs, okay? So I talked about it many times, that Gem Goddess video where that I watched back in 2020, where she said black dogs are important and mean it's just about time. And then that didn't start making sense. What hit me at that time was, obviously that's relevant, because this is the only time in my life I've ever had black dogs, and I have 3 that are primarily black. Not exclusively black, but primarily black. And then back when I started taking those classes at Inner Path, and we talked about black being a protective and shielding color, and then the next week in a different class, she said black is the color of source because all things come from nothing. It's like, well, so now I'm not feeling Christmassy at all. And it was kind of the same thing. Like, I could give a shit about presents, man. I feel like, I've told my brother, I even told my parents, it's like, I really don't feel in the Christmas spirit. It's like, I feel like like the whole, I forget what the word is. I almost had the word, it ran off from me. Commercialization of Christmas. And now it's this big thing. You got to get all these presents and do this and do this and do this. It's like, I ain't got the money for this shit right now. It's like, I really don't want to have to do that. I would rather, hey, I thought of you and thought this might be helpful for you. And for whatever reason, on a random Tuesday, I thought of you and decided to get you this. Here you go. That's how I would prefer doing things. I don't like feeling like I'm obligated to get people things because I'm going to hurt their feelings if I don't and they do get me something. It's like, I'd just rather not get anything. And then it really hit home when I had like one thing that I requested. And it was just a couple of shirts for some bands, right? And I didn't get that. I got some things that I didn't ask for. And one of these things, it's like a workout thing. And I feel like it's one of those things nice in theory, but in reality, all that's going to happen is it's going to be something that gets in the way and then takes up a lot of space and then you just shove it around. So it's probably going to go back. But, she asked me like, okay, within a couple hours of getting it, it's like, do you like that? It's like, it's fine. I don't know. But like trying to walk away from it, it's like, God, I just got it. I haven't had time to sit down and look at it and think about it another way or anything. It's just like, and then she did it again yesterday. It's like, okay, well, yesterday was my brother's birthday. So we went over to my aunt's house for my grandma's birthday. And basically my brother and his family decided not to go because obviously, there's been a whole lot of family drama lately. So they just did their own thing. Gracie wanted to take her dad out for dinner or for his birthday, so they did. They had their own little family thing, and it was fine. But then it's just, she asked me again last night. It's like, and it's like at the time it was just so aggravating because she kept asking me about it. It's like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I haven't looked at it. And then now that I have thought about it, it's like, it's going to be something that's going to get in the way. And, I would like to move at some point in the near future. And, that's just another thing I would have to lug around. So, oh boy. And I'm not trying to be ungrateful, but that's what I don't like about Christmas is because, okay, it's never, okay, sometimes I get what I asked for. I mean, that's whatever. But usually there's going to be something, usually multiple things that I didn't want, I didn't ask for, and I'm going to be made to feel bad if I don't do anything with it. Okay, like last year, there was this shirt. It was from Cracker Barrel. It looked like an old lady shirt. It's something my grandmother would wear. I like the owls. It's a cute design. It's not a shirt I'm going to wear. So it's like, yeah, no. It's just, I don't want to. But then, well, I thought it was cute. I don't want to feel bad because I got stuff I didn't want. And I feel like that's all it's really ever been is there's some level where you're going to be made to feel bad if you don't like the things or if you don't show enough appreciation, then you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. It's like, why do we have to do this? I don't want to. I would rather, I got you something because I happen to have the money and I thought of you rather than now I have to find the money and force a thought. And I don't know. My brother and sister-in-law kind of lucked out on the birthdays because I was at this little shop and, it was really early. It was before my grandfather passed away. And, I found I think peach aventurine, this little stone for a necklace thing. And then I got my brother a few stones that we're dealing with anxiety and stuff. It's like, because that's something he's been struggling with, this whole family stuff. I know because I've been there. I am there at times. And yeah, so it's like, I don't like this. I don't like feeling like everything's forced. But hey, now I'm kind of unraveling these details that basically show how the whole religion is freaking forced and fuck this shit and I'm done with it, right? So yeah. But then I go and watch the movie, and it's talking about how the pagans are so bad. It's like, no, the pagans weren't. I'm pretty sure the Christians were the one that were doing that shit. That, yeah. Yeah. Oh, but you won't hear that. Even though it's so blatantly, obviously, like a freaking stain on the shirt, man. Like, you know, the very people that are out there condemning everybody to hell are the same ones bashing them over the head with how, you know, all this stuff that the book says they're supposed to do, and so this is how, well, you gotta believe in Jesus because of this, but then they're living like they believe in Jesus, so then what the fuck is it all about, right? Oh. I don't know that dude at the bar was a serial killer, but that whole thing didn't set right. Like, I walked out of there with my friend, like, the guy got up and went to the bathroom, and I'm sure most women would have, like, used that as an opportunity to bail and haul ass out of that place, right? And I was like, I am not trusting it until I see him again. He is coming out of this stall. I feel rude about leaving anyway when somebody's like in the middle of a conversation, even if it's a shitty one. But he came back out, and it's like, okay, well, thanks for the drink, and, you know, and then we left, because then at least they have it on camera, right? That, you know, that was the last person that we were talking to. We would have gone missing. But, you know, that whole do whatever you want during the week and then just pray for forgiveness on Sunday, or whenever it feels convenient, or whenever you did something stupid that you weren't supposed to, rather than actually learn anything from it. Like, oh, hey, this fucking hurt somebody. Maybe that's a problem. Yeah, but that's not why things are the way they are. You know, that it's a whole lot of, we just do the bad behavior and make people feel like shit for trying not to do, or trying to stand out, basically. Okay, if you do anything that is not conforming to what they are telling you must do, then you're the problem. You know, and I know this because that's been my entire life. I've been the problem in my family. I'm the mouthy one. Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so the bigger thing was when I was little, and where part of the losing my voice came in at was the fact that it's like I didn't know why I would say or see things a certain way, but it's like, okay, in algebra, we learned that if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, right? So I feel like I've been doing a lot of that in my lifetime, and like I can see this thing and see this result of this thing and see that, like, there's a whole lot of layers to how we get from point A to point C or whatever, but I can see that they eventually, that's the reason that's the thing, right? So I would call attention to these kind of things, and it made people uncomfortable. And I think that's why it was why my voice got squashed as much as it did, and why I was so terrified of using my voice, you know, because I was saying things that I didn't understand, but it was basically calling attention to the underlying issue that was the cause of the thing. Like my grandpa and his obsession with death. Yeah. You know, it's just, I don't know. You know, I could see that it was his own stuff that caused him to be a dickhead to everybody else, and for that to be a whole thing, right? For my mom and her sisters, I can see why or how they've always been seeking his approval, and that's why they've done dumb shit. But at some point, if everybody's just allowed to treat everybody like shit and act like assholes, nothing's going to get better. You get the freaking government we got today, you know, and that's like, it's all connected, and it all starts a lot closer to home, you know, before it gets to these outer layers. But then it's basically, it's just like a bigger scale of what's going on internally. And until you like are able to reconcile what's going on inside, I mean, you're gonna have your own other shit to deal with anyway. But yeah, like as long as we let the bad behavior continue to be bad behavior, we're all getting fucked, you know, and we're all responsible for hurting people in various ways because we didn't do anything to fix it, right? And yeah. You know, it's kind of always been my biggest goal in life, is to understand why things were happening the way they were and then do something to try to make a difference. How that pans out, I don't know. I'm just kind of going along for the ride and seeing where the universe takes me on everything at this point in time, because there's a whole lot going on that, like, I keep getting these reminders. It's like, you're where you're supposed to be, keep going. And then something will come up, and like this morning I had a weird dream and twin flame stuff and all that came back in. And then when I was getting ready, I was rushing my morning process because I wanted to make sure I did everything that I normally do before I go and spend time with my mom and my grandma, right? And so I did, but then I'm standing there in the bathroom and I'm getting ready, and I didn't get into as good of a state as I normally do to, you know, go have a better day. Sorry. But I'm standing there in the bathroom, and then like I just have this vision of like interacting with my twin flame, and we've known each other for a little while, and then I just like have a meltdown and like go off on him about stupid shit that's like not even relevant for him anyway. It's just like attack. You know, it's like, then I had this like moment of panic of, where did this come from? What the hell does this mean? Is this something that means that I'm never going to be able to like connect with people? I'm never going to actually experience this whole love thing after all, because, you know, I keep having these moments that suggest that it's not going that route at all. It's like, the more I spent time with that idea this morning, it's like, no, I think kind of the bigger purpose of it was because there's still that, energetically speaking, there was still something that was getting ready to aggravate me, you know, being with my mom and my grandma, because, you know, they're always in the negativity and all that shit. And so this connection that means a lot to me and that I talk about a lot, and even though I've never met this dude yet, it's like, I've had moments where I've tried to second guess the whole connection, and it's like, I can't do that because I'm literally a completely different person than I was last year when I started this thing. Because last year, you know, it was like fixating on all the heavy shit and just trying to expand beyond what I thought I was capable of, and that didn't take hardly anything at all to do. You know, I put a couple of videos out on YouTube, and then it's like, you know, and then it's like, I'm at a different point than I was all that time ago, right? And I'm completely different. You know, I've learned to set boundaries. I'm understanding why boundaries are important for me, and being able to react differently to how I interact with others differently because of what I've learned. And, you know, like, it starts with these like visions of connecting with this person, and then, you know, like maybe it's something and the vision gets stuck. Like the one time I talked about, like I just imagined getting sent flowers, and then it just kept coming, and they like in the vision it's like I just got a whole bunch of flowers, and it's like, stop, I don't deserve this. And it's like, but why don't you think you deserve this? Okay, so now we got to navigate that whole thing. But it was like this triggering thing of, you know, it's like this whole thing that triggers a big breakdown of, okay, this came from the fact that I've never gotten stuff from, like my dad, right? You know, I got the pair of socks when I was in high school, and then everything else was from my mom. And it's like, I just never felt like I meant anything to my dad. Like, to some, there's a lot more layers in there, and if you watched any of my videos, you'll have gotten a bunch of that. But yeah, like that's, but like the whole twin flame thing, it's like it keeps bringing up things for me to have to work through before I can get to where I'm meant to be. But like that's the whole thing in and of itself. This chaos that is me. Yeah. And like I know this whole I've always kind of felt like I was here to shine a the not so beneficial parts of religion and all that fun stuff. And how a lot of people get screwed over by that. You know, I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Screwing over the population is, the world population is somebody gets fixated on an idea and then will bash you over the head with it until they coerce you into being somebody else, you know. But that whole thing in and of itself goes against the Christ message, and therefore the church is basically the biggest antichrist there is, right? So it's that whole system, you know. And the church and freaking government are freaking fuck buddies, because, you know, they're very much involved in trying to keep people locked into basically a sort of forced servitude to the system where, where we're all fucked. Nobody's benefiting from anybody except for those at the very top who, you know, kind of pull the strings kind of shit. Yeah. So you do what you want to make the system happy, and the system won't, you know. I don't give a shit about making the system happy, honestly. I'm kind of sick of seeing people suffer over dumb shit and people behaving badly and getting away with it because they can coerce people into acting however they want. Or, I don't know if I said that right. Basically, just the coercion to manipulate people into acting a certain way. It's like, yeah. We're not here to conform with everybody else. We're just not, you know. And that's why things in a lot of ways have been as difficult as they have been. But hey, I'm all about wanting to see things change. So, and I'm all about, you know, this whole thing with flying under the radar, because obviously the stuff I'm talking about more and more these days is becoming it's stuff that's going to piss a lot of people off, and that's why I think I've always kind of been afraid of it and kind of afraid of using my voice too, because I knew that part. But I think I'm finally getting more ready to shift. I'm really ready to like move. You know, I said over a year ago when I did that one video, it's like, at the time I'm so sick of my life, right? It's like, I'm so sick of the way things have been. I'm ready for something different. And, you know, I keep getting these messages here lately that are talking about derailed. Yeah, that happens, sorry. Being on the right path, that's one of them. There's nothing left for you to learn there. There's no new experiences to be had there. It's time for something else. I'm ready for something else. Let's get to something else, right? Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm an hour and 18 minutes. Yeah, and I'm so scattered, but whatever. It is what it is. This is me, y'all. If you're here, then you must have enjoyed something. So yeah. So anyway, as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.